Hey friends! Today we're going to be talking about the Netflix film The Devil All the Time, which revolves around themes like life, death, sin, vengeance, marriage, family, murder, religion, all taking place in small towns in the American Bible Belt. The film takes place in the 1950s and 1960s and dives deep into various characters and various storylines as they struggle with their decisions and their paths to retribution, and how all the stories weave together through the eyes of one person, Arvin Russell. This video contains spoilers about the film, including the ending, so if you haven't yet watched it, better hop off now. So, we start with following a World War II veteran, Willard Russell, who obsesses over prayer after he finds out his wife has cancer, even going so far as to shoot the family dog as sacrifice to try to heal his wife. We see his downward spiral as he tries to teach his son about good versus evil, about family, prayer, and the importance of time with God, as well as exacting revenge when the timing is just right. They have a cross set up behind the house, which is where we see some of the most intense scenes with Willard and Arvin take place, as they pray for Arvin's mom's cancer recovery, and Arvin can't seem to wrap his mind around why his father would kill the dog. The film follows Arvin mostly in a town in West Virginia as he grows up afterwards in a pretty happy home with his grandma, Uncle Erskine, and his beloved sister Lenora, who's not actually his sister but another orphan being raised in his grandma's house. Throughout the film, as the title suggests, we see themes of God versus Satan, and a whole lot of bloodshed as well. We're probably missing some of the overarching themes, but that covers it for the most part. If you can think of more, definitely let us know in the comments. The film is really good and keeps viewers on the edge of their seats, despite its eerie, deserted forest visuals and its calm, matter-of-fact narration. In fact, that's what makes it even creepier. But let's talk about the best part, the cast of characters. Friends, some of these characters are the definition of ignorance and moral depravity, committing acts of rape, violence, kidnapping, you name it. But others are just trying to protect those they love, and they end up in some pretty tough situations. Here we go! Tom Holland plays Arvin Russell. We follow little Arvin in his psychological journey as well as his physical one as he grows up learning about loss at a young age. First in Ohio, then West Virginia. Holland does a great job bringing the trauma of Arvin's past to his adult self, and we can really see him trying to navigate the path of justice in multiple ways. Through his character, we struggle with the idea that God works in mysterious ways and whether or not we can actually control what God does with prayer and sacrifice, which is ironic since sacrifice is often associated with the devil. Arvin is forced to kill multiple people, including the preacher, Carl, Sandy, and the sheriff in order to survive. Robert Pattinson plays the preacher. Friends, we were blown away by seeing Pattinson in a role like this. This preacher gave us the absolute creeps. Not to mention the fact that he nailed the accent and mannerisms of a skeezy man who uses religion and God to get away with his disgusting acts. He convinces Lenora to sleep with him, and then proceeds to turn her away and calls her crazy when she approaches him about the fact that she's pregnant. Bill Skarsgård plays Willard Russell. This character is difficult to portray because he's seen some terrible things in the war, but he also loves his mom, uncle, wife, and child very much, to the point where he's willing to kill the family dog in order to save his wife's life. He definitely has some delusions about masculinity and expressing one's feelings, but hey, it's the 1950s and a man's role in the family and society in the Bible Belt was very widely known and accepted. Jason Clarke plays the deranged Carl. I mean, this man's idea of fun is picking up male hitchhikers, getting them to sleep with his wife, and then killing them, all the while documenting the horror with his camera. He eventually picks up the wrong guy, as we know, since Arvin knows as taught by his father that he may not start the fight, but he has to finish it. And Arvin is quick to shoot Carl before Carl shoots Arvin. Riley Keough plays Sandy, Carl's wife who he pimps out to other men. We see her struggling with the idea of leaving or sometimes even killing Carl to get out of this life she no longer enjoys, but we still see her continuing to go through with the psychotic plan each and every time. In the end, she meets the same fate as Carl, and due to Carl's paranoia, he loads her gun with blanks and she's unable to defend herself when Arvin shoots her. And we have Sebastian Stan as Sheriff Bodecker. He talks repeatedly about his re-election and about how he's the law around those parts, but his sister Sandy reminds him that he's not as squeaky clean as he pretends to be. He owes some shady people some shady money, and despite being an enforcer of the law, hides evidence of Carl and Sandy's terrible acts after they are killed, since she's still his little sister, as the narrator reminds us. Well, we said this film has themes of family, and the lengths that people are willing to go to protect their family, even if it means protecting them post-mortem. So friends, we've kind of discussed what happens throughout the film as we follow these characters and they all weave together into one big murderous storyline. But let's specifically debrief that ending. As we know, these characters are driven by power, sex, past trauma, and religious ideals. Well, at least in a way that suits their personal agendas for some of these characters. So despite all the negativity, darkness, and sadness we witness throughout this quiet, sinister, gothic horror film, there's actually a glimmer of hope at the end. Just within the 2+ hours of the film, the viewer is already made skeptical about the idea of picking up hitchhikers, and even more nervous about the prospect of having a stranger in your car or getting into another person's car. So the ending was definitely nerve-wracking when Arvin once again gets into the car of someone who picks him up while he's hitchhiking. However, it quickly turns into this moment of calm, of peace, and we see Arvin drifting off. Wary that he's in a stranger's car, but so tired nonetheless, fighting to stay awake. In these moments, we witness him ruminating on multiple aspects of his life, kind of like his life is flashing before him. Also, that driver definitely looks like Jesus, which we don't think is a coincidence, especially since Arvin feels comfortable enough to finally rest. Well, he looks back on what he's done and hopes that when law enforcement finds the photos of Sandy and Carl's murderous escapades and the evidence linking the preacher to yet another girl he was manipulating and taking advantage of, he hopes they'll understand his reasoning for killing them. Then here comes the interesting part. He sees himself going to war, and he isn't sure whether he's seeing his father or himself. But friends, we think that he actually does end up enlisting in the Vietnam War, since we hear LBJ talking about the war on the radio in the car. We know he's a good shot, and he's learned so much from his father, and the trauma of seeing something or someone nailed to a cross creates this parallel between Willard and Arvin. So we definitely think this foreshadows Arvin's future, but that for now, he's safe. In a letter released by the film's director, we learned that the point of the ending wasn't actually to just tie everything together with a nice bow, and that it's not necessarily an ending as much as it could be a new beginning. We see Arvin turn around once in the car, symbolic of him leaving behind all of those terrible memories and events and starting something new in Cincinnati, which is definitely a new place for him. So we liked that after all those dreary and bleak stories, we see the silver lining at the very end. Friends, what did you think about The Devil All the Time, particularly regarding its ending? Leave us a comment below. As usual, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell as we bring you more juicy info, gossip, and speculation about the shows and stars you know and love. Until next time!